Good afternoon, fellow owners of Oakwood Harbor property. It's been a while since I made a video, so I'm just going to cover one quick particular topic that I saw that stood out, and that is the official Oakwood Harbor group page on Facebook. As you can see from this particular conversation that started, dear property owners, our July board meeting has been rescheduled until the 31st due to illness. Somebody had a tummy virus. I would like to encourage you to join the official Oakwood Harbor Property Owners Group page if you have not already done so that you will not miss important announcements. The page has a white background with an anchor in the center. I'm sharing this on Oakwood Harbor page as a courtesy because I know that some of you have not yet joined this group. That is also where the monthly board meetings are published each month. Now, this is a very interesting development because, number one, there is no official page, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But also, two, the monthly board meeting minutes have traditionally always been picked up in the office and have over time become later and later. At first, it was about a week behind, which is normal because of the time that it takes to transcribe it. And then it went to 2 weeks, then it went to 3 weeks, and now the very last notification was from Deanna in the office personally to me and to other owners, by the way, that the meetings of the minutes now have to be approved by the board, which means that you are going to definitely get the meetings 1 month behind. If they need to be approved before they can be posted, then this is a problem. But on the brighter, or on the larger subject here is that the minutes of the meeting, if they were to be posted on a group that is a official group, so that all of the owners had a right to see what was being approved by the board, it would be a much more efficient way to do it, and no one is arguing that point at all. However, I am arguing the point that there is no official group, because to have an official anything, whether or not it's a website or whether or not it's a Zoom meeting or whether or not it's a Facebook Live, all of these things need to be approved by the owners, because you have to understand, in an HOA or a POA or any other type of association, there are bylaws. Those bylaws, and I'll use Renee's example, are very similar to the U.S. Constitution, meaning that it's the underlying law of the land or the law of the HOA. Now, those bylaws can be adjusted later on, or what we would call amended, such as the constitutional law can be amended, but it has to be ratified by the states in order to add an amendment to the Constitution. So corporate law or law such as Robert's Rules of Order, for example, have certain processes that need to be made. The bylaw has to be put into place, first of all, allowing electronic communication in the first place. There has never been a bylaw updated to reflect the 20th century that says that these communications can happen via text or email or a Facebook group or a website. Now, preferably, because we all know how unreliable Facebook has been in the past and will probably be even worse in the future, I did give an option at one time. I spoke to Parrish Foster, the IT technician that fixed the access entry locks for the office, and I asked him if I turned over oakwoodharbor.com, which is legally registered to me, to him, if he would help to put together a forum that would be web-based on a website that would be protected and that the owners could use to post their pictures and make comments or even do voting. And he said absolutely. And I asked him, if this would be a very time-consuming thing. He said no. Anyways, the bottom line is that we have tried to set this up, but again, as has been in the past, most of these suggestions and or comments have been ignored. In order to use a Facebook group officially, It has to be in the bylaws, and then later on it can be amended and tweaked out a little bit by the board without necessarily calling an owners meeting. But you do have to have this in an owners meeting, and this does have to be officially put into the bylaws as a way of communicating before you can do it. Now, we'll get into that a little bit more too, but I wanted to point out that the important announcements and the monthly meetings being published. Now, Courtney at this point challenged her on it and said you could also join Oakwood Harbor property owners, and of course the response was Oakwood Harbor property owners is not official property owners group site, has no official information will be shared, and no official information will be shared on that page. And of course she said this is false, which is true. It is false. There is no official page. And then she goes on to expand a little bit on there and says, actually, Courtney, the anchor page is the official page. It's up to the board to decide which page is used to communicate information. If there was a bylaw, that would be somewhat true, but there is not a bylaw, so therefore it is her misinformation. Just like she's saying there, I'm not trying to start an argument here, I'm just trying to correct misinformation. Well, I'm trying to correct misinformation. Now, if you do create a bylaw and the owners approve it, then you can start tweaking it and using it. But let's go over that a little bit first. Official OWH Facebook group. What makes it official? Okay, the bylaw would make it official. There is no no owner vote on this particular bylaw, so it doesn't exist. No owner approved electronic communication rules, no transfer of administration when you resign, no official rules governing its use, verification of ownership, or how to get muted for violations of community standards. No rule that says that you can be excluded from or kicked off the group and no longer privileged to those official announcements or minutes of the meeting. No owner vote to allow electronic communications has been proposed, or has any vote regarding on how it will be run has been made. So until that bylaw is in place, there is no official page. Now here's an interesting little thing that I came across, because I figure what the heck, I'll look it up and see how many Oakwood Harbors there are. You can see from the listing here at the end of the results that there's a total of 8 of these groups that are set up right now. Now, the first one on the top of the list is Oakwood Harbor Property Owners, which is Ryan's group, and he is the private administrator. This is his private group. He can admit or exclude anybody he wants to. Oakwood Harbor Owners for Change is my group, and I administrate it, and again, it's my private group. I can do whatever I want with it. Oakwood Harbor Barter, Trade, Sell, and Employ is also a group that I created, and I am the administrator for, and we use it for obvious reasons, to buy and sell and trade without being kicked off of someone else's board for advertisements. Oakwood Harbor Residents for Civil Rights never really got off the ground, but as you can see here, it's run by a local owner, and he's got 4 members, so it's a misnomer. There's really no point in digging into it. Where it gets interesting is this Oakwood Harbor group here with 368 members, this Oakwood Harbor group here with the white background and the anchor, which is the official group, only has 87 members. And then of course there's 2 more that has 37 members in it, which was started by Deanna, and this is apparently a private group for community volunteers. Interestingly enough, we have 37 members in there, but we don't have 37 volunteers. So again, it couldn't really be an official group. And this one here was started by a new member and never went anywhere either. So let's expand on this just a little bit here. Let's go into Oakwood Harbor private group with 368 members. That's a pretty remarkable amount of people. So this must be the official group. And here we see that this is a private group. This is for information page only, Oakwood Harbor community, where questions get asked, answers given, opinions expressed, and people enter into discussion. Events get posted and friendships are made. Please refrain from profanity, which is a normal rule. This is not a sales site, so do not be offended if your business post is removed, hence the reason why I created the employ and trade and barter. Please be considerate and treat everyone as you would like to be treated. We all want the best for our park and people in it. No discussion of inadequacies of the board or current status. So that's one of the rules there. You're going to get booted off if you don't like the way that the board is operating. If the rules are not obeyed, you'll be blocked and your post will be removed. And if you have any complaints that need to be addressed by the board of OWH, you can jump over to the property owner's page. So apparently you can jump over to the property owner's page. So these aren't really all owners. This is just a private discussion group, and that's understandable. Okay. And it's, the administrators, David Thompson, no longer a board member, or, well, of course he was president and then he resigned, and he stayed on the board and then he resigned again. So now he's not there. So that's kind of a misnomer. And then of course, Rip Van Winkle is the other administrator to the board. And again, this is a private board. It's perfectly legitimate. You can have anybody you want in there, but his rules don't say anything about being an owner. So be kind and courteous, no hate speech, no promotions or spam, respect others at this site, termination for disruptive behavior. Well, that's an interesting one. It is the administrator's right to terminate any member and delete any post, or delete their post for any behavior deemed disruptive by the administrator. No rebuttal. You have been warned. So again, this is a private group. So we'll back up over here again and take a look at the supposedly the official board. So the official Oakwood Harbor Property Owners Group. Out of 600 members, let's see, Ryan's group's got 200. The other private group's got 338, and this one's only got 87. Either we lost a lot of owners, or a lot of owners have been excluded in one way or another. So let's take a look at that. Oh my goodness, here we go again. David Thompson is the administrator, and Debbie Thompson, his wife, is the administrator. So apparently when he resigned, there was no order of which this official site would be transferred to the current board of trustees. So whether or not the president and vice president are the official administrators of that now, or one of the other five, really makes no difference. The point being is that these two people, one who has not been on the board is simply a wife, and the other one is a board member who has resigned. Why is the official site still being administrated by them? And again, we go back to that rules situation. Okay, if you're going to make an electronic bylaw that says we communicate on Facebook on this group, and this is the official site, there's nothing there that explains how to transition from one trustee who either resigns or has been booted off or has just simply ran his term and now he has been replaced by a newly elected member. So this is where the problem lies. You can't have this as an official board because you're limiting the amount of people. There's no way. There's nothing in our rules or regulations that says that you have to be an owner and that owner will be verified in some manner, such as Oklahoma county records. I can go into Oklahoma county records, as can you, and I've demonstrated this in previous videos, and you can look up an owner and make sure that they're legitimate. But there's nothing saying you have to do that, so you can pretty much admit anybody you want and kick off anybody you want. The problem here lies in, if you're going to make an official statement on an official group and you're going to post official minutes of the meeting, then that group needs to be open to every single owner that is listed and requests group membership. You can say, we'll mute you or prevent you from posting, which is well within the administrative or even moderator means of Facebook's capability to be able to just shut somebody up because they're causing a disruption. Or what we like to use, and Ryan has endorsed recently with his rule changes, is the post approval. So an administrator or a moderator would look at the post and then approve whether or not it could be posted. This is to create an atmosphere where disruptive or illegitimate claims have been made that don't have any proof to back it up. So if someone's driving up and down my road at 35, 40 miles an hour and the speed limit is 15, and I go out there and I take a video of it and I post it, that's legitimate. I've just showed you that it happened. But on the other hand, if I just go out there and say, this guy's been doing this and that, and now it's hearsay, it's an illegitimate rule. But again, these rules have to be ironed out well in advance, saying who administrates the board, how is that board transferred from one administrator to another, what are the rules, and what are the consequences. So I was on a couple of these boards and I said some things that the administrator didn't like. I got kicked off. That's happened just as you saw on the previous posting here by Renee, that she was on Ryan's board, and because she was a board member during the August meeting, and all the board members were kicked off because they didn't respect the owner's vote, which kind of happened again on April 17th, if you remember right. The voters all got to, or the owners all got together and made a motion and voted on it, and even though there was an attorney present, they just blew off what we wanted and did what they want. And in this case, they're doing the same thing. They're creating a group and they're saying, this is the official page. If you want the information, all you've got to do is go over there and join. Well, I've been banned from joining that since the other administrator, who's still the administrator, who's not a trustee, quit. But the point is that these are all things that need to be addressed. The person that is administrating the board, the rules, and again, now you look here on the official page, it says you can and will be put into timeout or blocked if you are disruptive on this page. The only rule on the group that is the official group is that if I don't like what you say, I'm going to kick you off. You can't do that. You're an owner. You have rights to information. You have rights to notifications. So you can be muted if you're a pain in the butt. And then we can go talk about it somewhere else, because there's plenty of groups to do that are privately administrated. But you cannot call this an official group if it's not in the bylaws and if there is not a rule structure in place. So Renee, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. You need to get with the guys and teach them how to do this properly, because there's no rules. You know, there's no way you can call this an official board and keep me off of it. There's no way you can call this an official board or group, however you want to look at it, and keep anybody who irks you off of it. You can mute them, yes, and then they still have access to the important information and the monthly board meetings that are always late. They can read them, but you can't eliminate them from being or from being a group member, unless of course they sell their property and the deed has been recorded as transferred. Then you can kick them off. But just wanted to clear that up, because there's a lot of craziness going around and a lot of people fighting over this, what the official board is. And here you got the president, well, vice president, or I'm sorry, secretary. It gets confusing because, you know, Ted doesn't say much and Renee says a lot. But she's saying that this is official, and it's clearly not official. So if you want to make it official, then maybe you should go back to that quarterly meeting. As I recall, there was a post by Tina at one time too, asking for a quarterly meeting so that the owners would have more input. And I know, because I wrote the motion for Bob that was voted on, seconded and approved on April 17th, there was a provision in there asking for the owners' meetings to be reset until 2023 as quarterly. That way their owners could give their input and vote these types of bylaws into place and straighten out the covenants, as well as put their opinions and suggestions forward. But no one's listening. So you need to before you call this official, and if you want to see those numbers grow so that you have an accurate reflection of how many owners are actually paying attention and giving input, then you need to make this official and you need to make rules. So that's all I had to say for today. I just wanted to let you guys know that, you know, we've all been discussing it, but there's nothing really official about that group. So have a great day.